What secret do you want to confess that no one else knows? Story 1. I'm unsettled by how difficult it is to feel passion or motivation about anything in my current life. I've gone through years of higher education, internships, freelance work, and portfolio revisions, and I feel absolutely nothing for any of it. This deeply troubles me, but I keep putting on the everything's great and I'd love to join your company face because it's what's expected of anyone searching for a job. This also extends to my hobbies, and I say that with air quotes, because honestly, I don't even enjoy what I used to enjoy or thought I enjoyed anymore, and that also disturbs me deeply. Edit. For those asking if I have been diagnosed with depression or similar conditions, yes, I have, along with ADHD and some other personal diagnoses. But I've had underwhelming experiences with therapy, meditation, and medication, which makes me hesitant to try them again. They can be helpful tools, but at the end of the day, they don't erase the fact that your problems still exist. As for medication specifically, I dislike the side effects, especially how most of them just made me feel emotionally numb. Honestly, I felt better after I stopped taking my last set of antidepressants. Edit 2. Just to clarify, I'm currently freelancing while actively looking for a full-time position, have been since before finishing my graduate program last month. I admit, some of what I'm feeling could be tied to how hard it's been to find a job in my field. Ironically, that might be a blessing in disguise, as it's given me time to explore other career options that might suit me better than advertising. That said, nothing has truly stood out to me yet. Story 2. My wife was unfaithful a few months ago. She says it was just one kiss and some inappropriate messages, but honestly, only she and the other person know the full extent of what happened. I ignored all the warning signs, which I now regret. I haven't told anyone, and it happened about 4 months ago. We're in the middle of buying a house and we have 2 kids. At first, I chose to forgive her, and we worked on rebuilding things. However, she and her sister are planning to go on a cruise this November, and I don't trust her at all. I feel completely stuck. Edit. I spoke to my wife this morning, and she seemed more concerned about saving our marriage than going on the cruise. She even said she was going to call today to see about canceling it. I know many people have suggested divorce, and I completely understand why. I don't know if that's where we'll end up, but for now, I'm going to keep trying. Sometimes things aren't as black and white as they seem. Story 3. I'm unhappy in my marriage, but I still love my wife. I think if we met today, we wouldn't even date, much less get married. But the thought of leaving her for my own happiness makes me feel sick to my stomach. She constantly says how happy I make her, how much she loves me, and that she couldn't live without me. And I love her too. We're just so different now. We got married young because we believed God was guiding us to do so. Our responsible adult figures advised us to wait, but we and our pastor believed otherwise. We did a lot of premarital counseling, so we actually have a solid foundation, but we've grown apart, politically, personally, in hobbies, movie interests, religious beliefs, which she doesn't fully know about, and nearly everything else. There's very little common ground left. I can say we both enjoy watching anime together and listening to audiobooks she picks out as we fall asleep. I've tried suggesting some books and a few podcasts, but they didn't work for her. We haven't been intimate in months, and she recently shared that she identifies as a romantic and is fine with basically never being intimate. I'm very different in that area. She's not working at the moment, and we're under financial stress because of it, but I still want her to be able to spend a little on herself because it genuinely helps with her depression. She spends on hobby supplies, which give her a sense of purpose. Despite working over 50 hours a week, I still do most of the cooking and cleaning due to her mental health challenges. But I still love her deeply. I'm just unhappy. I care for her. I want to be with her. I'm just not happy. I feel like I put in more effort than she does, but she truly appreciates it. I know it's not out of bad intent. I just enable the imbalance. She recently started seeing a therapist, thanks to a change in finances. But I don't think I can afford one for myself or for couples therapy. If you made it to the end, thanks for listening to me share my thoughts. Edit. I didn't expect this much feedback or so many responses. I'll try to reply to as many as I can because it genuinely helps to talk it out. To answer a few common questions. My wife described herself as aromantic because she feels discomfort watching romantic acts. That said, she actively seeks kisses, hugs, and cuddles from me. After researching more, I don't think she's truly aromantic. She just seems averse to viewing romance, not experiencing it herself. She's aware she doesn't contribute equally, and it genuinely bothers her, which adds to her depression. I'm not blaming her, but it's still true that I'm doing more. She's working on herself, and that effort is a huge reason I'm still here. But I'm still unhappy right now. We both know we need couples therapy, but it's just not financially possible at the moment. Honestly, just being able to express myself and talk with some of you amazing people has helped a bit. It's not a replacement for therapy, but it's a comforting boost to help me hold on until we can make it happen. For both of us. Story 4. I had a 2-hour online exam for college, and we had to stay on camera the entire time until everyone was finished. The problem was, I had a major stomach issue half an hour into the test and couldn't leave my seat. If I moved, everyone would see what had happened. So I waited until everyone was done, our grades were submitted, and we were finally allowed to turn off our cameras. I ended up getting 100% on the test. Edit. Thanks for all the feedback on what has to be one of the most embarrassing moments of my life during that psychology exam. Here are a few details people asked about. Yes, this really happened. I didn't know something similar had happened to someone on a talk show, but I'm relieved to know I'm not alone. I'll look into that story for a good laugh. It happened because I'm highly lactose intolerant and accidentally added a milk-based creamer to my coffee. The cleanup afterward was awful. I had to throw away my office chair and take a long shower to get myself clean. My stomach is extremely sensitive, and yes, it's happened before, though that time was even worse, and during a Bible study at a church. That's a story for another day. I was studying psychology at the time, and I now work in that field. Story 5. The only person who ever knew what happened to me, being restrained to a bed for 3 days, physically assaulted, violated, and subjected to unspeakable torment, has been gone for 10 years as of last Monday. That person was my father. He came home early from a trip and walked into the house unexpectedly. He had left my then 15-year-old stepsister to watch over me while her mother was away on a separate trip in a neighboring town. I was just 5 years old. That night, my father called his ex-wife home, and what followed was a brutal scene. He unleashed his rage on her, physically attacking her while her daughter sat there, forced to witness everything. Story 6. In my group of close friends, all of whom are in committed relationships, I'm the only single person. Honestly, I don't think I've ever been in a relationship that lasted more than 2 weeks. The idea of being part of a couple has always felt exhausting to me, so I never worried about rushing into anything. But I didn't truly realize how lonely I've become until one particular night. We were playing beer pong, and I was on the same team as one of the women in our group who had a bit to drink. After I scored the final point and we won, she hugged me. That simple hug made me realize that, since leaving home for college, I haven't really had those comforting physical gestures I used to receive as a child. As an adult, those moments are rare, and I hadn't noticed how much I missed them until then. Story 7. I suffered a concussion about 10 years ago that caused me to lose nearly all of my episodic memory. Over the past decade, I've recovered some of it. Bits and pieces, faces I once knew, facts about people, how I felt about them. But most of the actual event memories are gone, or just come in brief flashes. It's frustrating because before the head injury, I had a photographic memory. Now my memory is unreliable. I rarely tell anyone about it because I don't want pity. More than that, I don't want people to react negatively. Once I was waiting for public transportation when someone walked up and greeted me by name. He clearly knew me and asked how I'd been, saying it had been a long time. I didn't recognize him at all. When I explained about the concussion, he got upset and accused me of lying just to avoid talking to him, then walked away angrily. I don't want to go through something like that again. Story 8. My final semester of college was completely derailed by the pandemic, including the capstone project I had been working on for several years. On top of that, I was broken up with by the person I thought I would marry, the day before I left campus for the last time. A couple months later, every single one of my friends stopped reaching out. I tried talking to a therapist, but she seemed more interested in telling me about her own life than helping me with mine. In the past year and a half, I've lost more family members than I can count. Some to COVID, others to unrelated causes. Among them were 2 of my grandparents and my 16-year-old cousin, who tragically took his own life. I've never felt more alone in my life. I don't have anything to look forward to. Most nights I fall asleep just hoping I won't wake up in the morning. Story 9. While on my delivery route one night, I had a restroom emergency. Number 1. It came on so suddenly that I didn't even have time to pull over near a bush or anything. I'd say about 20% of it escaped in the driver's seat area before I managed to grab a container for the rest. Since we were allowed to take our vehicles home after work and I only had 14 packages left, I just drove home, thoroughly cleaned the area, and delivered the packages bright and early the next morning. All deliveries were kept in the back, and nobody else drives my vehicle but me, so there was no risk of contamination. I was frustrated with myself, though, but at least no one saw it. Unlike the time I threw up out of the door while driving someone on my bus back in 2007. Story 10. I have a condition I was born with called Klinefelter syndrome, and I remember as a young kid always wondering why my body looked different, why certain things didn't seem to match the others. It turns out this condition gives me an extra X chromosome. While growing up, I had to take testosterone injections because my body doesn't produce much of it naturally. I didn't even go through puberty until the 10th grade. Eventually, I had a big growth spurt. I'm currently 25, 6 feet 5 inches, and have wider hips than most men. I still haven't grown any real facial hair, maybe 5 or 6 strands on my chin, but that's about it. It used to bother me a lot. I used to wonder who could love me with what I saw as a flaw. But I've worked through that shame and learned to love myself, just as I am. Everyone has something they hide from the world, and I'm no longer ashamed of mine. I'm glad I can finally share this part of me, something most people don't know. Edit. For those asking, no, not much changed physically in that area. Since I was 14, things have stayed pretty much the same, around 4.5 inches when fully aroused. If anyone wants to ask questions or just talk, I'm open to hearing your perspective too. Story 11. Over the past 2 years or so, I really thought I was losing my mind. I didn't know what was happening, physically or mentally. I just felt constantly sick and exhausted. My anxiety and overthinking led me to ruin one of my closest friendships, and I still haven't had the courage to go back and explain it all. There were times when I felt truly hopeless. Eventually, I was diagnosed with both cancer and an autoimmune disease, both of which were affecting not just my body, but also my mental health. I'm getting treatment now and feeling much better, but I still haven't found the strength to reach out and explain why I was acting the way I did. I know it's not entirely my fault, but I still hurt someone I care about. And saying something like, "Sorry I was struggling because of illness," doesn't feel like enough. L, if you're reading this, I'm so sorry. I truly wish I could find a way to make things right. Story 12. My parents used to involve me in their arguments a lot. I knew way too much about their personal lives, and sometimes I still hear my mom yelling. Even now, there are times when she even argues late at night over something and just keeps going. My parents don't realize how much that affected me as a kid. I knew things I never should have known. I struggle with pretty bad anxiety because of how they used to be, and how my mom still hyper-focuses on negative things every day. Everything feels like an emergency. It's never just normal. Something always has to be going wrong. They used to be kind of regular people, but now it's all that. In politics, they brought politics into everything, and it's always negative. I just wish my parents would stop focusing on the worst possible outcomes, stop watching the news constantly, and take a break. I wish they'd actually enjoy life for a minute and leave me out of all their problems. Story 13. My headaches are actually tooth pain, intense tooth pain. But because of trauma with a dentist when I was a child, I haven't been able to bring myself to make an appointment. I've also struggled with depression for so long that I kind of gave up brushing my teeth. They're in terrible shape, but the thought of even looking at a dentist's office makes me panic, let alone walking into one and hearing the, "Why didn't you take care of your teeth?" speech again. Honestly, I didn't expect anyone to see this, but since so many people have, and the comments are overwhelming, I'm adding an update. I'm working on getting Medicaid. Someone told me that it includes dental coverage. Others said some dentists are actually kind and don't shame people who haven't been in a long time. So, I'm trying, but I don't have a job or money, and since I'm in the US, many of you understand what that's like. For those concerned about my health, it's a broken tooth. No abscess or infection right now. Just a chipped tooth from eating. It hurts. My whole head hurts. But I got some over-the-counter pain relief from Walgreens, which helps for now until I can see a dentist. Thank you all. I'm still scared. Terrified, really. I cried while writing this. But you're right. I need to see someone. I want to be around to watch my baby grow up. I don't want something worse to happen. So thank you. Story 14. I was the child of a miserable marriage with similar toxic dynamics. So, I guess it's story time. I hope someone out there sees this. My father will never admit to ever feeling suicidal, but there was a period where he joked about it constantly. On the drive home, he would explain to me, what he called rationally, why it made sense for him to die. He said the life insurance payout would help the family, and that it would be a final, noble sacrifice. Then he'd go on and on about everything going wrong in his life, his injury at work, career problems, dropping out of university, my mother's affair, debt. The list never ended. When I started crying and showed concern, suddenly he was just joking, saying he'd never leave his family. But then while driving on narrow country roads, he would speed toward the ditch and jerk the wheel at the last second. Afterward, he'd get angry at me for being scared. He acted like I had insulted him for even thinking he might actually crash the car. I was about 10 years old when this happened. I was too young to carry the emotional weight of a parent's pain, especially one who blamed me or used me to unload it. I often wondered whether we would die in a murder-suicide. If someone plays psychological games with you, they'll definitely do it to your children too. It's only a matter of time before things escalate. I'm in my 30s now and still dealing with PTSD. Please don't let that happen to your kids. Leave before the damage becomes permanent. Story 15. I'm generally a good guy. My wife makes sure we have balanced nutrition in our house. But every once in a while, I get this intense, irresistible craving for the foods from the less healthy side. Burgers, fried chicken, chips, Doritos. When the urge becomes too much, I make an excuse about going shopping and head out alone into the evening. I roam around the shopping areas on my side of town where all the fast food places are. The KFCs, McDonald's, Burger Kings, until I find the one that matches my craving. Once I get my food, I find a dark corner of the parking lot and back the car into a hidden spot. For about 20 minutes, I indulge. It's both a ridiculous and deeply satisfying ritual. I feel more alive than ever. My mouth becomes a stage for a dramatic, victorious scene. My mind and body enter a kind of blissful singularity. The food gives in to me with its salty, cheesy flavor. And then comes the grand finale. Sharp, sweet, ice-cold sips of soda washing everything down in perfect satisfaction. And then slowly, it's over, just over. After a 10-minute food coma, I quietly drive the car out of its lonely parking spot and head home. I've been doing this for years. My wife and family have no idea. Story 16. I smoked for 6 years and quit this past Monday. I was extremely dependent on it and was really concerned about how my mind would react once I stopped. Whenever I hadn't smoked, I used to feel extremely down, sometimes to the point of dark, overwhelming thoughts. The first night after quitting was rough. I couldn't sleep until I was completely exhausted. But the past 2 nights have been much better. And as for the mental struggle I feared, surprisingly, I've had fewer negative thoughts in the past few days than I did when I smoked every day. I think smoking can give temporary relief when you're dealing with issues, but in the long run, it makes you avoid addressing them. Eventually, those problems pile up and catch you off guard. You find yourself right back in the place you were before, except now, you're still not confronting anything, just numbing it with smoke or relying on that little hit of motivation to get through the day until the next session. Try taking a short break from it. See how you feel. I still struggle with finding purpose sometimes, but that's just because smoking took up a lot of my routine. Now I'm trying to fill that space with hobbies or things that actually matter. You can do it, man. I genuinely believe in you. Story 17. My brother was murdered in July 2020, and I've been hiding the fact that I've become a functioning alcoholic because of it. I lie to my parents, my wife, my friends, my coworkers. I tell them I only drink 3 drinks on Saturdays, since that's my only day off. What they don't know is that I had 3 drinks before I even met up with them. They don't know about the shots I take before clocking into work, or the cocktail I quietly make to go with lunch at home. I work night shifts, so my wife never sees me stumble in and pass out for hours before I have to wake up and sober up just in time for her to get home. I always enjoyed drinking even before he was killed, but now I'm afraid to go without it. It keeps my mind foggy enough to get through the day. It helps me fake just enough happiness to hold on to the relationships I nearly threw away when he died. I know it's wrong, but I'm the oldest sibling. I always told my younger brothers to take risks and enjoy life, and to call me if they ever got into trouble. The day he was killed, he called me, but I was asleep. I've never told anyone that he tried to reach me, and I don't think I ever will in real life. I haven't slept without alcohol since. It's the only thing that keeps the nightmares away. Story 18. I don't want to go to the doctor to get my scoliosis checked because I'm scared I'll need surgery. To say I'm scared of the surgery is an understatement. I'm absolutely terrified of the idea, and it's the reason I keep putting off making the appointment. On top of that, I'm also scared of being dismissed again. Last time I went, they treated me like I was just a dramatic teenager. And even after realizing I was serious, they didn't change their tone much. What makes it harder is that I live with neglectful parents. If something serious does come up, I'll have to rely on my friends for help. They have their own lives, their own responsibilities, and I don't want to be a burden to them. Story 19. My boyfriend went on a business trip out of state over Valentine's Day, and I flew out 2 days later to meet him so we could spend time together. Since his company was covering the hotel costs, we thought we'd make the most of it. Before I arrived, he had some meetings and went out to dinner with coworkers. When I got to the hotel, the moment I stepped into the room, I felt something was off. There was this strange, heavy feeling, as if something bad had happened there. He said he hadn't been feeling well, so I assumed it was just a cold or fever and focused on taking care of him. Still, that gut feeling never went away. One night I tried to comfort him and show affection, but he brushed me off, saying he wasn't in the mood. I didn't question it much at the time because I believed he was genuinely sick. Months later, while we were at home, he left for the gym and accidentally left his computer open. I know it was a violation of privacy, but I started looking through it and found an unsent email draft from the time we were at that hotel. It was like a journal entry. In it, he described how one night before I arrived, he went out drinking with coworkers. One of them, an older man, took him to several bars and by the end of the night followed my very drunk boyfriend back to the hotel room and assaulted him. He wrote about it in painful detail. I can't bring myself to repeat the contents, but it confirmed what I had suspected, that something terrible had happened. I know he'll probably never tell me, and I don't think I'll ever tell him that I know. It still keeps me up some nights, but what brings me some comfort is that this all happened before the pandemic, and now he works remotely, so he never has to see the person who hurt him again. Story 20. I'm completely financially stuck this month. My husband and I just had a baby 4 weeks ago, and I had to return to work last week. I'm supposed to get paid tomorrow, but my entire paycheck is going toward health insurance. That check was supposed to cover our dinner tomorrow, and I wasn't prepared for this. So now I'm sitting alone in our room crying, trying to figure out how we'll pay bills or put food on the table for the week, while my husband is in the other room helping our newborn get to sleep. He's on paternity leave and will get paid, but not until next week. He was supposed to receive a work bonus on October 1st, but it never came. That's the reason I had to go back to work so soon. I feel like a total failure. We thought we were prepared, but we had to unexpectedly switch from breastfeeding to formula. My milk supply dropped, and it made our daughter projectile vomit. Story 21. This has been the hardest period of my life so far. My grandfather was evicted, he lives with my uncle, and they were supposed to move across the country. My grandfather is a hoarder, so it was already incredibly stressful trying to get him to throw things away. We had to drive 5 hours to his house every weekend to help him move and sort through everything. Since there was so much stuff, especially things that belonged to my late grandmother, my uncle had to take one person at a time to the landfill, which was 40 minutes away. He went about 10 times and took me, my dad, my mom, and my brother. During those drives, he talked to all of us about life, the past, the future, our family. With me, he talked about girls and life in general. Then he started giving me some of his sentimental belongings: a buck pocket knife, a university jacket, a nice watch. It felt a little strange. When we finished moving most of the things, we had to go back home. It was my and my brother's last weekend there since school was starting. My parents were going to return one more time to pack the U-Haul and finish the final things. I said goodbye to my uncle. He gave me a half-hearted bye. I also said goodbye to my grandfather, and it might have been the last time I ever see him, since he's very old. The next weekend, while my parents were on the 5-hour drive to finish the move, They got a call that my uncle had passed away. They rushed to his house and had to deal with everything immediately. It was devastating, especially for my grandfather. He hadn't even fully processed losing his wife, and now his son was gone too. It was also really hard on my dad since it was his brother. Keep in mind they still had to leave the house in 2 days and finish packing, right after losing him. To make things more intense, my aunt, who lives only 40 minutes from us and hadn't spoken to our family in 15 years, suddenly showed up to help. It was helpful but overwhelming given everything going on. They finished packing, and even though my dad planned to stay for just 2 days, he had to go on the 4-day road trip across the country with my grandfather and stay at the new place for a month to help him settle in. It was a hard trip, especially with their dog, who hates my uncle, and the feeling was mutual. When only my mom came back from the weekend trip, I asked where my dad was. She explained that my uncle had passed from a heart attack and that my dad had to travel with my grandfather. I didn't see my dad for a month, which was really hard because this is also the busiest time in my life. When he finally came home, I asked him in the car about what really happened. He broke down crying and told me my uncle had taken his own life. He had gone out into the front yard and died from a self-inflicted wound. My grandfather heard the sound, went to check, and saw his own son lying there. I can't imagine what that must have been like for him. My dad cried so hard he could barely speak, and there wasn't much I could say to make it better. Now my schedule is packed. I wake up at 6 a.m., get to school by 7 a.m., have sports practice until 9 p.m., then homework after that. My grades are suffering, and I'm just completely overwhelmed. Honestly, I just want it all to stop. Even a hug would help. If you've read this far, thank you for sticking around and hearing me out. Story 22. I'm burning out as my wife's caretaker. I love her more than anything, and we've been together for 21 years, but I'm exhausted. Still, no matter how tired I get, I'll be here every day. That won't change, but sometimes I find myself wondering, what if? Mostly, what if I had told my best friend in high school how I really felt about her? I found out years later that she had feelings for me too, and I wonder what might have happened if I hadn't been too scared to say something. That said, I'm happy with where I am. My wife and I have 3 amazing kids, and I've spent half my life with her. But I'd be lying if I said I never think about how life might have turned out differently if I'd just spoken up in 1996. Story 23. When I was around 14 or 15, I was friends, though not very closely, with someone who later turned out to be a potential domestic terrorist. She was eventually caught. I had been introduced to her by a friend who was deep into the dark corners of the true crime community. Her name was Elizabeth. We didn't speak directly very often, but I knew her through a Discord server dedicated to true crime. It was full of people with disturbing views, and she was the owner. At one point, she mentioned she had been receiving exciting letters and that she was working on a big project. It turned out those letters were from none other than Dylan Roof. He had been writing to her with instructions on how to build a homemade explosive device. She was planning to use it to blow up the bar where she worked, convinced they were polluting a nearby river. Everyone who knew her was shocked. I was too. She had always seemed like just another person online. A little odd, sure, but nothing like that. To find out she had been working with someone like him was terrifying. I still reflect on that time with some of my online friends. But I know that if I told the wrong person in real life, I'd probably end up being questioned by the authorities. No matter how close you are with online friends until you meet them in person, you never truly know who they are. Be careful who you talk to, online or offline. One wrong connection can land you in danger, or worse. Story 24. I feel incredibly inferior to all of my closest friends, and I'm not really sure why they hang out with me other than out of kindness. Deep down, I guess I know that's not true. They could have left me behind easily. I live the furthest from the group and don't get to hang out often since I have a kid. But they're all so much more intelligent than me and make way more money. It honestly baffles me that they still want to include me. My dad has always said I'm a very likable person, and I've been with my wife for over 15 years now. I've never really had trouble connecting with people at parties or social events, so maybe all of this is just in my head. I don't know. I am medicated for depression and anxiety, so maybe that plays a part in it too. Story 25. I quit my job last week and haven't left my house since. There's trash piling up in my home, and I haven't even cared enough to take it out. I haven't showered either. I'm not sad, but I am depressed. I'm angry and filled with resentment toward friends, family, even strangers. I've been hurt a lot, and even though I tried to move forward, I smiled at strangers even when most of them never smiled back. That part still kills me inside. I'm scared I'll never meet new friends or find love again. I don't want to die, but I also don't really want to live. I think people are so self-centered. I've had suicidal thoughts before, and right now I don't even have the motivation to try again. I feel completely lost. I feel like a failure. My mom used to be my strongest emotional support, but she's nearly 80 and sick now. I've stopped talking to her about how I'm really feeling because I don't want her to worry. I used to thrive in my personal life and in my career. I was smart, motivated, good-looking, funny, fun to be around, a great friend, and a great partner. I don't feel like any of those things anymore. Story 26. I hate my ex-girlfriend. She was the first person I ever dated, the first person I ever loved. We broke up, got back together, broke up again. It was a cycle. I was her safe space, someone she could turn to. She had a rough home life and an abusive mother. She had also been through trauma, and I always did my best to support her through her pain. But when I, as a male, was solely assaulted by a coworker and told her about it, she got angry with me for talking about other girls who had shown interest in me. Meanwhile, she frequently talked about the boys she dated and her current crushes. She got kicked out of her house. I took her in. She later moved in with her dad. I listened to her vent. I supported her. I brought her on vacation with my family. This past summer, I cut contact because she started dating someone else, yet still insisted on coming with us on family vacation, even after I told her she wasn't welcome anymore. My mom still thinks we'll somehow reconcile, and honestly, I do miss her sometimes, but I never want to see or hear from her again. She took advantage of me. I'm not sure I'll ever feel safe opening my heart to someone again. Story 27. Last January, my dog of 14 years had a terrible stroke. I was still in bed when I heard a horrible sound. It was her crying out and flailing. My parents told me to watch the other dogs while they rushed her to the vet. They came back and said it was time to say goodbye. We went to the vet together and gave her one last hug and pet as she peacefully passed away. I felt horrible. I wished I had spent more time with her. I just broke down crying and buried myself in video games to cope. The next day, I went to school like nothing had happened. I didn't tell anyone outside of my family, not even my best friends. Rest in peace, Dixie. You were the smartest and sweetest dog I've ever known. Story 28. I've been struggling with addiction for most of my life, and as I approach 30, I've decided it's time to end it and focus on becoming a better version of myself. My addiction led to PIED, a condition that made intimacy with my partner difficult and left me feeling embarrassed and full of shame. I used to spend hours every day consumed by unhealthy habits, watching things I knew weren't helping me, trading content, video chatting with strangers. It even got to the point where I separated myself into two different versions, one online and one in real life. I had to constantly seek newness to feel something, watching things I wasn't even truly interested in. None of this reflected who I really was, but I had allowed it to take control, and I hid all of it from the people closest to me. But today, I'm 24 days clean, and I'm proud of how far I've come. I still get urges, but I'm learning to manage them. I'm rebuilding my relationships, doing better in university, and for the first time in a long time, I think I'm starting to feel real happiness again. Story 29. This is something I'll probably never say out loud to anyone, but I just need to get it off my chest. When I was a teenager, I wasn't in a good place. I had violent thoughts, very dark ones. I used to imagine hurting people, not specific people, just people in general. The idea of causing pain, of seeing destruction, felt like something that gave me a rush. Not in a romantic or strange way, just pure intensity. One time I actually went out intending to do something, even approach someone, but at the last second I froze. I couldn't go through with it, and I was angry with myself afterward. It reminded me of how I felt years later during a suicide attempt, an adrenaline rush mixed with something deeper. When I turned 19, I made a promise to myself to bury those feelings and never act on them. I've avoided anything that might remind me of that mindset. I even tried watching the show Dexter once, but it hit way too close to home and triggered a panic attack. I don't want to hurt anyone. I don't want to be that person, but I can still feel the shadow of who I used to be buried deep inside. Story 30. I didn't study a single day last academic year, and I'm terrified this year will be the same. Since lockdown began, it feels like my brain just switched off. I can't bring myself to study or even do basic things like eat or drink water. Sometimes I miss breakfast completely and don't even realize it until my mom points it out. It's not intentional. I just don't feel hungry anymore. I tried setting reminders, but I only remember to do that on the rare days I feel somewhat motivated. I've lost a lot of weight because of it, and when people compliment my weight loss, it makes me feel awful because I know it wasn't healthy or deliberate. Even starting a TV show feels like an achievement. That's how difficult it is to begin anything. In the past year and a half, I've only managed to finish 2 shows. The worst part is school. My grades before the lockdown were great. They got me into university. If I'd kept that up, I probably would have earned a scholarship. But I didn't, and now I've added financial stress to my family. I feel guilty every day. I try to take small steps, but it always feels like everyone else is miles ahead. If I can't get perfect results, I feel like there's no point at all. I know getting a low score is better than nothing, but my brain keeps choosing nothing. I've tried talking to my parents, but they brush it off, saying I'm being dramatic. I don't know what to do anymore. On top of all that, I'm scared of how my family will react if they find out I'm gay. I worry about my future, whether I'll ever get a job, be independent, or live in a place where I'm accepted. And if I can't, what's the point of going on? I don't want to die, but I don't really want to exist like this either. Story 31. People know a little, but not the full truth. I'm a short girl, 4 feet 10 inches, and it's had a huge impact on my self-esteem and confidence. I've always felt like I'd never be truly loved, that I was unattractive, strange, and abnormal. I've been working on overcoming these feelings for years, and I've made progress. But every time a guy is only interested in me physically, it chips away at me again. I feel unwanted and it hits my self-worth hard. I crave emotional connection from men, but I jump into situations for the instant gratification of being wanted. More often than not, I end up hurt because the person doesn't really care about me. I'm a giver and it's exhausting. I try my best to be there for people, only to end up disappointed. Lately, I've been setting boundaries. I want to improve my personality and work on my fitness so I can feel worthy on my own without needing anyone else to validate me. But it's a long road, especially when I have to constantly interact with others, and my height always makes me feel insecure. I know this might seem small compared to what others go through, but I don't know when I'll finally stop feeling less than. Story 32. I'm really struggling emotionally right now. Since I was a child, I've always had this sinking feeling that people don't actually like me. They just tolerate me out of politeness or obligation. I'm currently working with a group of people I used to consider friends. It's been nice in some ways, since I already know them from before. But the thing is, I know they hang out without me. I know you can't force people to include you, but I want to be included so badly. The pandemic made it really hard to connect with others, and since these people are part of my testing group, they're basically the only ones I can safely spend time with, but I'm still not invited. I don't feel like I can express how I feel, because every time I've done that in the past, it just made things worse. So instead, I bottle it up. I smile, I pretend I'm okay, but I'm not. Story 33. I'm doing good now. A few years ago, I attempted suicide and ended up in the hospital. I used to think about it constantly. The sound of my parents and brothers crying still echoes in my memory. It changed me. Depression makes you blind to what you have. It made me overlook the love and support my family had for me. But today, I'm on my feet again. I still think about it sometimes, but I'm moving forward. I've learned so much and I'm proud of how far I've come. I've accepted my past, taken responsibility for my relationships and mistakes, and I'm now focused on the future. I've gotten to know my body and mind, how they function, how they shift. I've studied myself, and I've found healing through better nutrition, supplements, and hormonal treatment. I'm not depressed anymore. I've taken back control. To anyone out there who's struggling, life is incredibly hard, but it's also rewarding to overcome. Learn it, master it. You can achieve what you set your mind to. Story 34. I don't want to be the foundation of my family anymore. I don't want to be the dependable one. I want to feel loved. I need someone to hold me and tell me it's okay. My parents have been fighting for as long as I can remember. It's a failed marriage. My mom won't even cook for my dad anymore, but still takes money for groceries. And somehow, she always plays the victim. I can't tell her how I really feel. If I try, she threatens to harm herself and bangs her head on the wall. So we all stay quiet. I want to scream the truth, but I can't. If I do, everything will collapse, and I'm not mentally strong enough to handle that. 7 months ago, I broke up with my ex and it shattered me. I lost all direction. But the worst part was the guilt. I felt like I didn't give her closure, and I imagined her suffering while I was suffering too. So I reached out to talk things through, to help her feel better. It gave her peace, I think, but it tore me apart all over again. Now I feel lost. I have dreams and goals, but I'm at rock bottom. There are so many things dragging me down, and this is just a small part of it. I don't even want to think about the rest. To cope, I go on long drives with no destination. I make impulsive choices that mess up my future. I stay awake all night, overthinking. I've never touched alcohol, drugs, or anything like that. I try to be kind, honest, caring. I give my heart to people, but it feels like I always get hurt in return. It just doesn't make sense anymore. Sorry for the ramble. I needed to get this off my chest. Story 35. Even though she loves and adores me, I honestly don't care much about my mother or feel any real affection toward her. She had me when she was 16. I was unplanned. And my father, who fits just about every negative description imaginable, left her to go on a date with his girlfriend the night I was born. She went from one relative to another, searching for help, and eventually found my father's parents. They agreed to help and adopt me under the condition that she finish school, turn her life around, and become mature enough to raise me properly. The last time I willingly visited her was about 10 years ago during a summer break in high school. She's cleaned up her act to some degree, but she moves constantly and has a pretty unpleasant personality once she lets her guard down. Still, she's loving and sends me messages every few months on Facebook, asking how I'm doing, if I think about her, and when I'll come visit. Right now, she lives a state away, about a 4-hour drive. I play along and tell her I've missed her. But the truth is, I only say those things so she doesn't feel alone. She only raised me for the first year of my life. My grandparents raised me after that. My father's long gone. He caused a major rift in the family, and I have no idea where he is now. As much as I wish I could care about her, I feel no emotional or personal bond, and it makes me really uncomfortable when she acts overly sweet or close with me. I'm planning to move to Japan in a few years and start fresh. Not just because I love the country, but because there's so much I want to leave behind. Life here has felt full of danger and unpredictability, and I just want peace. The hard part is, I don't want to take any part of my old life with me that I don't absolutely have to. I've thought about telling her how I really feel and ending contact, but there's a history of mental illness and suicide in both sides of my family. I just can't take the risk of pushing her closer to something irreversible. Story 36. I'm a really open person in general, and I'm in a committed relationship with someone I absolutely love, but I still have these recurring, guilty romantic or flirtatious thoughts about other people. It's something I've experienced even before this relationship. At first, everything's fine. I've never cheated. I always draw a clear line with everyone that I'm in a relationship, but I enjoy the feeling of flirty attention from others, and I sometimes get caught up in it. It's strange because no one knows me like my partner does. No one could ever replace the connection we have right now. And yet I carry this guilt. My thoughts never cross into anything physical or truly inappropriate, but they're still flirtatious, and that alone makes me feel guilty. My partner sees cheating as absolutely wrong. He's very clear about it and wouldn't hesitate to leave someone who crossed that line. He even distanced himself from a lifelong friend who cheated. We joke around sometimes. He teases me about past relationships or jokes about platonic friends, but his loyalty is unwavering, and I panic that I might not be as single-minded as he is. This kind of thing has happened before in past relationships too. I've never told anyone this. I feel like it's wrong to commit to someone and still have thoughts about others. I don't know if I'm being too hard on myself, but the shame is hard to face. I'm not really looking for advice. I just needed to say it out loud somewhere. Story 37. I've been struggling with self-harm relapses for a while now. A few months ago, I managed to stay clean for 108 days, but after I relapsed, I haven't been able to go more than a month and a half without slipping. Right now, I'm 12 days clean, but I've been fighting the urge to relapse for about half an hour. The urge is intense, and it won't go away. My boyfriend is the only one who knows, and he's the main reason I'm trying so hard to stay clean. I can't stand lying to him, and I hate knowing it hurts him when I admit I've relapsed. He's supportive and kind, but I know it affects him too. I used to use small disposable razors, but I threw them out to try to help myself stop. Now I can't even shave properly. But worse than that, I've started imagining using anything sharp I see, box cutters, scissors, even kitchen knives. It's hard to ignore those thoughts, and honestly, I'm typing all of this just to keep myself distracted. I also think about my youngest brother. He's my best friend, and sometimes he's the only reason I keep going. I've had some rough days lately, and while I've had suicidal thoughts, I haven't acted on them because of him, and because of my boyfriend, and even because of my pet rat. That might sound silly, but it's true. He and I are close, and I could never hurt him like that. Story 38. I feel like I've turned into someone who's just numb and disconnected from everything. And I don't even know why. The idea of living without caring about anything terrifies me, but I'm already there. I didn't feel a thing when I graduated university this year, even though I worked so hard to turn a bad GPA into something respectable. I feel indifferent about a relative who's currently very sick, someone who might not be around much longer. And I hate how distant I feel about it. I've lost interest in all the hobbies I used to love, and now I'm constantly trying to pick up new ones just to feel something. But none of them work. They don't fill the void. I feel like I've lost the ability to connect emotionally with people, whether platonically or romantically. When someone tries to show me love, it feels like they're speaking a language I don't understand. And I don't know how to return that affection either. In some ways, I've grown and improved over the past few years. But still, I can't help but feel like I hate who I've become. Story 39. To anyone and everyone struggling with suicidal thoughts or feelings, please hear me out. Whether you have family or not, siblings or not, friends or not, please just listen. Last January, I was woken up at 5:15 a.m. by the sound of my father screaming. I ran upstairs and found him on the floor, crying. I shouted, asking what was wrong. He looked up at me and said he had just received a call. My brother had taken his own life. It's been almost 2 years, and not a single day goes by without him being mentioned at home. We still cry over him. We still feel the pain from what he did. I'll love him forever, but part of me struggles to forgive him for the pain he left behind. I know life gets hard, really hard, but please fight, please hold on. Our minds can endure far more than we think. If you can't keep going for yourself, do it for someone you love. And if you feel like you have no one, then please do it for me. Keep going. Keep getting stronger. You're not alone. Story 40. I ruined myself financially when I gave my parents $30,000 at just 19 years old. I also worked for free at their business, thinking I was helping them build something. I carried that credit card debt for years. I gave them the money believing that if I ever needed some of it back, they'd help no matter what. But when I was truly struggling and asked my mom for just $1,000, she told me that if I wanted the money back, I never should have helped them in the first place. I still love my family deeply, but lately I've been stuck in this self-sabotaging loop, and I don't know how to break it. It's even harder because so many of my friends and acquaintances believe I'm destined for success. They say it with so much certainty, and I'm terrified I won't live up to it. To top it off, I suffered a serious injury in the spring. I can't do my old hobbies. I can't stand or walk for more than a few hours. Sometimes I just wish I had been born into a different life entirely, like I started in the wrong game. Story 41. I might regret sharing this, but here it goes. My wife recently gave birth to our son, and the first few days of taking care of a newborn pushed me into a dark place mentally. She had a C-section, so nearly everything fell on me, aside from feeding, because she physically couldn't move. The shift from focusing on my own life to being needed 24/7 hit me like a truck. I was embarrassed. I had no clue what I was doing. I had to ask a nurse to teach me how to change a diaper. I felt like my entire identity disappeared. I couldn't focus on work, and it was a dream job I just started 4 weeks earlier. Couldn't go to the gym, couldn't leave the hospital for more than a few minutes. I was sleep deprived, mentally drained, and on the third night, I genuinely considered walking out and ending it all. I just felt like my life was over, but I didn't go through with it. And after that first week, things got better. Slowly, I started feeling more like myself again. My wife and I are finding a balance. I've been up every night this week with the little guy, and honestly, I don't mind anymore. I love watching him fall asleep in my arms. I never told anyone about this. I felt guilty. My wife was going through so much physically and emotionally, and I wanted to be her rock. Plus, I felt like I wasn't even allowed to feel this way. As a man, people don't expect you to struggle with postpartum depression. I didn't want anyone to think I didn't love my son or that I'd be a bad father. But I needed to get this off my chest, even if I never say it out loud again. Story 42. My childhood best friend and my girlfriend of 5 years betrayed me by getting together. It's very likely she cheated on me with him. About 5 months into their relationship and living together, she called me while he was away on a business trip, and we ended up sleeping together. She told me afterward it was the best experience she'd ever had. It felt satisfying, knowing she said her best moment happened while being unfaithful to him with me. What made it even more satisfying was learning that my former best friend had spent thousands of dollars on her, paying for trips to Disney World, concerts, jewelry, and more, to cheer her up after she left me. All that effort only for her to betray him the same way. She begged me not to tell him, and I agreed. Not because I cared about her or wanted to protect her, but because I wanted him to keep wasting his time, energy, and money on someone who had been disloyal from the beginning. Someone who cost him a friendship and gave him nothing in return. I don't regret it. Honestly, I don't feel bad for either of them. Story 43. I genuinely don't like having autism, and it's caused me to struggle with how I see myself. My mom always tells me that my autism is a strength, not a struggle, but I've never really told her how much I disagree with that. I have high-functioning autism, so while it's not as severe as other forms, it still affects my life in major ways. Social interactions are hard. Anxiety is always present. Growing up, I went to schools where autistic was used as an insult, and that really damaged my self-image. I sometimes struggle to do basic things like order food or interact with people at the grocery store. And I always worry they'll think I'm being rude when I'm just trying to hold it together. I don't have many friends. I've never been in a relationship. And sometimes I wonder who I would have been if I hadn't been born with this. Would I have been happier? Would I have been a better version of myself? Maybe even a better child? Story 44. People around me think I'm happy and completely self-sufficient. I've built this image of being someone who doesn't need anyone, who can live alone and thrive. I talk about how I love computers, and how I'm fascinated by things like the cosmos, time travel, and the mysteries of life and death. I base most of my decisions on logic and tell people I believe in stoicism, detachment, emotional control, and not letting things get to me. But the truth is, I'm scared. I'm scared of losing the people I love. I constantly crave connection, and I feel empty without it. But I have a really hard time admitting it. I was raised in a home where tough love meant we didn't say, "I love you" much, and we didn't show affection. Now I find it difficult to express emotions to my friends, or even to my girlfriend. I want to tell my family and the people in my life how much I love and miss them, but the words don't come easily. Being vulnerable still feels like a weakness I haven't fully accepted. No one really knows this about me, except my girlfriend. And even with her, I'm still learning how to be open. Story 45. I'm genuinely getting tired of caring for this one girl. She's a really great person, and I like her a lot. She used to say she liked me too, or at least I think she still does. We haven't seen each other in almost 2 years because of the pandemic, but we've kept in touch. Or rather, I've been the one keeping in touch. I'm always the one checking in, asking how her week went, but she never really does the same for me. She told me she's not ready for a romantic relationship right now because she's going through a lot, and I respected that. I promised to stay by her side as a friend and support her through everything. But honestly, I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this. I'm not sure if what I'm doing is noble or just foolish, especially knowing there's no guarantee that I'll even get the chance to ask her out properly one day. I don't need a lot, just a hi, or for her to ask how I'm doing, because even I'm getting tired too. Story 46. When I was 11, I stole a necklace from my babysitter. She was our neighbor across the street. She pretty much figured out it was me. She even went through my school bag and found the empty box the necklace came in. Then she went as far as showing up at my school and having me pulled out of class so she could ask my classmates if they'd seen me with it. I swore to my mom that it wasn't me, and that lie started a whole chain of events that caused a lot of stress and pressure on my parents and our family. I was kind of an at-risk kid. My parents both worked late, and I was left unsupervised a lot. I stole things. I lied. I even made up fake illnesses. I spent most of my time alone, riding my bike around the neighborhood and keeping myself busy however I could. To this day, I've never confessed to my mom. But the truth is, I did steal that necklace, and I didn't even keep it. I panicked and threw it under our house when people started asking questions. Story 47. I've made a decision in my mind. I plan to take my own life after my parents pass away. I once read a quote about war that said something like, "Sons should bury their fathers. Fathers should never have to bury their sons." And it's stayed with me ever since. My parents are still in their 60s and 70s, so by that plan, I've got quite a while to go. But lately, I've found myself considering doing it sooner. I've been going through a really difficult period with depression, and for a while, that thought became a constant in my mind. One of my closest friends knows I've struggled with my mental health. Just last month, one of his own friends died by suicide, and it really shook him. He told me to promise I'd never do the same. I didn't say anything. I just kind of shrugged. The thing is, I know I have a good life. I've been given so many opportunities and I don't dislike any of them. But it's like my mind refuses to let me feel joy or peace. It's just always heavy, and I don't know why. Story 48. I know I'm just one more voice in the mix, but here I go anyway. It's crazy how much we all secretly go through. Sometimes I struggle to understand why we feel so isolated from one another, why we hide so much. But I also totally get it. Even now, as I'm typing this, I'm debating whether I should even post it. That hesitation has been happening more and more lately. Lately, I've had these intrusive thoughts about running away from everything, from my life, even from my girlfriend, whom I love deeply. Sometimes I wish she'd break up with me so I wouldn't have to be the one to make any choices. And right after, I'm hit with confusion. Like, why did I even think that? Where did that come from? It's strange. I'm mostly happy with my life. I don't live with regret, and I've never been the type to dwell on the past. But the feeling that something is missing keeps creeping in. Maybe I feel unfulfilled. Maybe I'm just waiting to stumble into something that finally feels like it. Reading other people's confessions helps. It reminds me that I'm not alone in this. Still, I often compare my struggles to those of others and convince myself that mine are too small to matter. But the feelings still come, obviously. And recently, what's been bothering me most is growing up. I kind of hate it. Life gets more complicated and the world feels heavier. Sometimes it seems like everything is just going to get worse. I keep pushing forward, working hard, but I don't even fully understand what I'm working toward anymore. Maybe I'd be more lost without the work. But even with it, I'm still bored, still drained, still stuck in the monotony of everyday life. Too many thoughts right now. Story 49. I've never felt more depressed than I do right now. I went through a traumatic depression back in middle and high school, but it doesn't even come close to what I'm dealing with now. Since June, everything has felt like it's falling apart. My long-term boyfriend broke up with me, and to this day, I still don't understand why. That confusion is still holding me back from doing the things I normally would. I failed a course that's now delaying my degree, and if I fail it again, I won't be able to graduate at all. My only grandpa passed away from diverticulitis. Knowing that he was suffering all the way until his last breath broke something in me. On top of that, several family members caught COVID, and one of my uncles died because of it. My godmother was diagnosed with breast cancer right as we went into one of the longest lockdowns our city has ever seen, and her condition keeps getting worse. My grandma had to be rushed to the hospital for chemo. She has multiple myeloma, and through all of this, I've had to keep up with more than the average university workload. What makes it harder is that I live on the other side of the world from my family. Being far away from them through all this has made everything feel so much heavier. I really hoped 2021 would be my year, or something cliche like that, but instead everything's just kept falling apart. At one point, I stopped eating and drinking for over a week. I couldn't even get out of bed for 3 of those days. It feels like everything I care about somehow ends up broken or taken away from me. This has been the hardest year of my life. And even though I'm getting help, I still don't know how to cope.